All right, so welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. I think the last video I posted was maybe a week and a half ago or something like that, close to 2 weeks, I don't know. But I don't really plan on having any sort of like set schedule with this just because I really wanted to be kind of free flowing and chill. And like, even for my own sake, I don't want to feel like I have to have a schedule for everything because that is not necessary. And for these videos, I look at it like just an opportunity to hop on and say something that I'm thinking about that I feel like talking about for more than 5 minutes. So that's how I've been kind of going about it, is when I think of something, and when I saw this content creator that I follow that kind of said the best way to like post content is not feeling like you have to plan every video out and have to talk about this specifically at this time or in some order, but just kind of look at your life around you and see what is, get ideas from your actual everyday life. It doesn't have to be anything flashy. It doesn't have to be you taking a trip somewhere or doing something that is deemed like, I don't know, content worthy. It's just stuff that comes up in everyday life. Personally, I think for especially long form videos like this, I personally think it's kind of better to go about it that way, just because the things that I bring up probably more than likely are things that the other average person can relate to. I do love to travel. I do love doing exciting things, going to try new restaurants, but that's also like not everyday life, at least for the average person. When it comes to just what it looks like day in and day out, like the fun stuff is great. And I definitely want to talk about that stuff as well on this channel, because I don't want it to be extremely serious or like overly dense or anything like that. But in reality, in my opinion, these things that I do talk about, at least for some people, are more realistic to like kind of touch on week by week and like want to check in to a YouTube channel and just kind of hear things that are relatable. Which is why, again, I don't want to make this like some strict regimented, like I have to post this kind of content every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 days or whatever. I want it to be very natural, just because I feel like that's how everyday life is. It just kind of flows how it flows, and you figure out how to show up to them every day, show up to these, to those moments every day the best you can. So, yeah, I want to just kind of think of different topics, obviously hearing ideas from you all, and just, again, everyday ideas that we all go through, the average person, and talking about them for 15 to 20 minutes. That's pretty much the formula I have right now. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I balance my own personal growth with my relationship. Obviously, I've made a lot of videos so far just about my own personal like journey by myself, obviously, because this is about me. But I also want to tie in relationship stuff as well. Nothing crazy, nothing too detailed, just general things. Again, I want this channel to be something that is relatable, whether you are in a romantic relationship or not, or if it's connected to friendships or family. But this specific video, I want to focus on like romantic relationships and my personal relationship with my partner, and how that has tied into my own personal growth, how it has helped it, how it has like kind of put a mirror to my face on what I needed to work on and things that I had strengths in and things like that. And just talk a little bit more about that, because I do feel like, having been in a relationship for almost 5 years now, it has absolutely contributed to how I show up in the world, how I view myself, what I've learned about myself, things that I didn't know about myself, things that I did know about myself that I am not like, I'm not that way anymore. And just a whole slew of things that just have contributed to who I am now as a person. So first and foremost, I guess a little background on me. I kind of talked about this a little bit. I come from a pretty religious background. When it comes to sexuality and gender and all that kind of stuff, I already spoke on that. It's never was encouraged unless it was with, in a heterosexual relationship, in a Christian context, being married or on your way to marriage or whatever. So for me, being somebody who has always been attracted to women, I just kind of chalked it up to, well, I just won't be with anybody then. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what my life is gonna look like. I'm okay with that. And I was okay with that to a certain point in time when I realized I'm a very loving person. I have always wanted to have the feeling of like experience sharing a life with somebody or sharing a time with somebody. Obviously, the person I'm with, I'm going to be with forever. That's my person. But back before I even met her, I thought to myself, like, this doesn't really feel natural to me, because I genuinely enjoy love. I enjoy the thought of like doing something, doing for your partner, learning your partner, being challenged. That's something that I've always thought was fascinating, that, dating somebody, I didn't know obviously to the full extent until I got one myself, but dating somebody, putting you in a position to learn and challenge yourself in ways that you probably never had before. And I did know that before, but I know it now even more so because I'm in a relationship and I've seen it firsthand. Like, wow, dating someone in a serious, intentional way will have you looking at yourself in really having to look at the deepest parts of yourself that you didn't even know was there. Some you did know was there that you never wanted to, kind of touch or think about. And that really went hand in hand with my personal growth, because there was certain parts of myself that I really didn't know how to access or didn't know how to touch into, because I was by myself with the things I was dealing with. Felt very isolated, felt very kind of just in my own little bubble, which in some ways was protective, and it protected me, but it also hindered me from developing in a way that was healthy as like a young adult, when it came to just like how I would handle conflict, or how I would expect for people to handle conflict. That's probably a better way to put it, is seeing that not everybody deals with things the same. Not everybody processes things the same. Not everybody views things the same, just whatever that is. And when you're by yourself a lot, in the context of the dating world and things like that, it can be easy to kind of get wrapped up into what you think something should look like, or how something should be handled, or what you would do in a situation. And quite frankly, until you're in that moment with your partner or the person that you are dating or married to, or in a relationship with, you, in my opinion, don't really fully know. Obviously, there's some things like for, cheating. If you're not a cheater, I'm not a cheater. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not, going to, I don't know, just the main things that are like things that you just do not want to do as a person. Obviously, like cheating and I'm trying to think what else. I feel like that's like the main thing when it comes to a relationship. But I'm talking about just how you show up in conflict, what you would do if this happened, or all the hypotheticals that you see on like social media and things like that. I personally believe that you can have opinions about it. And I feel like it could also show up not only in romantic relationships either, but I think like if you're very close to a friend, or if you have a family member that you're very close with, that your life is kind of entwined with. I guess here we're talking about romantic, but in my opinion, I think that, at least for me, when I was kind of on my own, let me scratch all of that. I'm going to speak just for me, that when I was on my own and isolated, because I think being isolated is very different than being single and having good people in your life in different capacities, like friends, family. It's just different people that can kind of, it sounds cliche, but kind of fill your cup in similar ways that a romantic relationship would. So I want to correct myself and say, for somebody who was isolated and who spent a lot of time by themselves and didn't have the healthy interactions with people in terms of the romantic world, there was some things that I just came into a relationship underdeveloped in, when it came to how I thought about things, how what I expected from a partner and from a person that I liked or dated or whatever. And for me, my relationship came at a time and blossomed at the same time that me as a person was. And although that was amazing in a lot of ways, like I really remember how like blissful that felt, and how nice it felt just to be able to kind of say like, wow, it's like a breath of fresh air. I can kind of exist, be who I want to be. This person accepts me for who I am. I like this person. I'm attracted to this person. I want to be with this person. I'm very interested in learning more about this person. I've never been afraid of like commitment or anything like that. So I'm more of a person like, when I know, I know. And with this person, I knew. And she was it. That was it. But with that being said, there is also a very hard side to that, where I am growing as a person parallel to me growing as a partner, and in a way that I've never experienced before, because this, being my first real relationship that's like long-term committed. I feel secure in it. I feel confident. I'm not, hiding it from anybody because of the whole gender and sexuality stuff from my family. Like, this is a real adult relationship. I'm experiencing both at the same time. And that hit a certain point where it was very overwhelming. It was very, hard. It was very kind of like, wow, this is a lot, because there were things that I, let's say, should have kind of probably experienced or learned in as a single person, that I didn't like, I wasn't aware of until I got into a relationship, of just like, I'm trying to think of like any like general examples that I can say, but just kind of like how, like for instance, I had an idea about how relationships look in terms of communicating. That is a huge one, that I had this idea of what it looked like, and once I got with my partner, and realized that that is not necessarily how it works. And when I say how it works, I just mean my version of how I communicate. I'm a very, very expressive person. I like for things to be solved kind of like quicker than not. I do not like waiting around to talk about things. Like I get very, I think if any of you know about attachment styles, like anxiously attached, I have definitely, since being with my partner, realized that that is more of my attachment style, and that goes a lot into my upbringing, how I kind of connected to my family, my parents, how I dealt with stress, all that kind of stuff, which maybe I'll talk. Yeah, that could be another topic. Even right now, I just thought about that as I'm saying it. I could kind of dive more into that in a later video. But for me, I realized that like I did not do well with like time and like timing of things, and when to bring things up, when not to bring things up, how long something needs to be talked about, how not to talk at somebody, even if I feel like I'm expressing myself in a very clear way and I'm articulating really well and I'm not yelling, but it still can come off to somebody who is maybe different than me, in terms of their attachment style, can come off very like I'm talking at you. I'm talking to you like you're like kind of a child, even though my tone isn't like I'm like talking to you like you're stupid, but it can come off like that when you're kind of very, okay, here's what I have to say, here's how I had to say it, and just being like this, it just comes off away. I mean, it just does. And throw in sometimes, tone. Obviously, sometimes I can think I don't have a tone, and I do. And I learned that very quickly. That doesn't matter if in my brain it makes sense how I said it or when I brought it up or how it came about. When you date somebody or when you're with somebody, you have to be considerate of that and considerate of the fact that they may have their whole other version of how they bring things up. And if you want to be with that person, you have to kind of come to a compromise and figure each other out in that way. And that was really hard, especially coming off of detaching from my family, not feeling like I really could communicate about anything, not feeling like I couldn't communicate about anything, and coming into this relationship where it's like I did feel comfortable with this person. I did enjoy talking to her. I did, I felt like, and we were able to talk about so many things that I felt like I was allowed to put this expectation on her that my family didn't feel. And I felt very justified in that. I felt like, what do you mean? Like, I've never been able to experience this. You're allowing for me to talk. So yeah, you're gonna hear my voice, because I never have had one before. And I quickly I don't want to say quickly. I realized over time that was a very unhealthy way to approach a partner and your equal, because it could kind of feel like you are kind of, I don't know, it's kind of overkill. You didn't get this over here that didn't have anything to do with this person. And because of that, you are showing up in this particular way that's like putting pressure on them, an unfair pressure on them that they didn't ask for and they don't deserve, basically. And that took me a while to understand, just kind of like, and I don't even say this to sound like cliche, I've been to therapy, and I truly, truly do believe that a lot of things that people bring from their past in terms of family or past relationship or past friendships, even past, just whatever they've gone through, absolutely shows up in various ways when you date somebody. It doesn't always have to be cheating. It doesn't always have to be something like it doesn't have to be anything extreme all the time, like abuse or cheating or anything like that. It can come up in very subtle ways of how you, I don't know, like how you joke with your partner, like when you choose to bring things up versus when you don't, when you choose to go silent versus when you don't, when you choose to express yourself versus when you don't, or how you handle a disagreement, or how you handle a stressful situation, whatever it may be. You really find out a lot about yourself when you have to be in such close quarters with somebody, whether that is just in a relationship generally, but even more so when you live together. And me and my partner, we spent some time long distance and eventually moved in together in the same state. And it just took us time. It really, really took us time because we were both people, are both people. Well, I'll say now we're definitely more relaxed. I feel like now we joke about around how we used to just be really annoying about just having to like both take space at the same time and just not having that like ebb and flow to our relationship. And that took a while. That took a good little amount of time for us to realize like, if this is going to work, we're going to have to know how to have an ebb and flow to know like, hey, this is my time to share my feelings. Can you kind of back off for a second and let me take the space, and we'll get back to you, and kind of and doing that on the other side as well, and trusting that the other person would indeed come back and see the other perspective or talk about the other person's side. Like that stuff really took a lot. And for me, and us in our own personal growth, and as a couple, we quickly realized how both of us really valued, in our own ways, valued autonomy and valued being an individual. And for me, I didn't realize that I had never really in my life felt like I was an individual. That never was something I was able to experience growing up as a late teenager, as an early 20-year-old, even mid 20-year-old, if I'm being honest, but kind of right when I met my partner. That is not something I've ever experienced. And my partner, in her own way, it was not very similar because she had a very different background, but in her own way, she also didn't really get to always experience individuality in a way that she wanted to. So once we came to a point in realizing that we both in different ways deep down was craving individuality and autonomy, we quickly realized that our relationship was lacking that. And that was what our relationship needed, was like a foundation of autonomy, us living our different lives while also coming back and living together. And that started to work really well for us. Realizing that, hey, it's important for you to have your support system. It's important for me to have mine. It's important for us to have a support system that is for both of us as well. And of course, that kind of stuff takes time. You can't just whip that up in a month. Like, you have to get to know people. You have to like venture out and get community. Obviously, with me not having my family in its entirety, I do have some family members and people that I know that are very supportive, know my partner, love her, and have met her and everything, but not having like a huge group of people. And the people I do have are very scattered. We really had to be intentional about who it was in our corner, and realizing that we do have people in our corner. Some mutual, some people that are just for us separately, and also just in our day-to-day life, going to the gym. We don't go to the same gym. We have that time solely for ourselves. And I always joke that I wouldn't mind working out with her, but she's more like she wants to do it herself. But then I also thought to myself too, that if we did work out together, I would truly want to do my own workout and have her do hers. And then I kind of was like, yeah, I think it makes sense that we just kind of do our own thing. And there's sometimes we'll go together and things like that, but we have really found a lot of peace in making sure that we are adamant about us having our own lives and really having those things that we can do by ourselves, with our friends, with our people, and eventually coming back together to make coming back together that much more special. Really, I don't mean to say that to sound cliche or corny, but we quickly realized that our relationship, a big foundation of it is our individuality. And once we started tapping more into that and realizing that both of us were trying to figure out ourselves as individuals at the same time as figuring out our first real adult healthy relationship, that was a lot of pressure for both of us. There was a lot of moments of doubt. There was a lot of moments of like victory, victory. Like, that's a weird word to use. That there's a lot of moments of like us being, us being accomplishing goals and accomplishing things that, like, say 6 months ago would have been an argument or an issue is no longer a thing anymore. It took time, but we eventually got to a point where we both admitted, like, yes, we need our own life to better help us as a couple. And we were trying to do it the other way around, which at moments. And I think that was very eye-opening for me as an individual, because I realized that I was attaching my own self-growth always, not even just with my partner, but have always attached my self-growth to another person or another group of people or something else, instead of it being about me first. You know, I would attach my growth to my family. I would attach my growth to what they thought. I would attach my growth to what I thought I should be doing based off what other people would say, or based off what, Christianity would say, or whatever the case is, and not looking at like, okay, what do I want for myself? And my relationship really forced me to do that, and forced me to look at myself and really hold myself accountable for the things I want in life, instead of trying to always have it be like a team effort, because it's not. At the end of the day, like, my partner is who she is, I am who I am, and we can make something together with that. And for us, at least, that is the best way that we both feel whole, essentially. And once we got that down pat, we're definitely not perfect, but once we got that down pat, a lot of things became easier for both of our journeys of self-growth, and just how we show up for ourselves, and in turn, how we show up for each other. So, wow, that 20 minutes went by very quick. I looked up and it's almost 21 minutes. So I do think I will probably talk more about this, because I think that it was, over the past 5 years, very evident that my self-growth and my relationship kind of was blended together, and needed to be blended together at some points, but at other points really separated out. And I found out so much about myself during both seasons. Right now, I feel like me and my partner both absolutely have our individual lives, and are balancing that much better with how we show up when we do come together, and how that looks, and just having a really, really a more peaceful balance of both. And it's been great, honestly. It's not perfect, but it's definitely something that has improved so much from the first year we've been dating, going up to it being now almost 5 years. So I will definitely be making another video similar to this. I figured I hadn't really talked much about relationship stuff. So hopefully you can resonate with something in this video. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all the stuff, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear what you think, or what your thoughts are, what your experiences have been with your own personal growth while being in a relationship with someone, even if you're not together anymore, just anything that you want to share. And yeah, I will be back for another video at some point. See ya.